Paul, Renee, Sean, Tamara.
Is that Tamara in Vegas or Tamara and Tammy in Atlanta?
Oh, is that you, Tammy?
It's me, Tammy, yes.
Oh, and are you online, Tammy? Oh, yeah.
I am.
You are. Okay, I didn't see you there. Huh. Are you with somebody else? I just don't see your name here.
No, you know what? And that's the live meeting didn't load. It's
Ah,
really
it didn't pop. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll try it again. If it didn't work, just let me know. If you need to join me. And then, so do we have a Sean? Sean, what about Julie?
Sean's here.
Oh, Sean is here. Okay. Hey, Sean, what about Julie? No, Julie. What about Amanda? Chris? Lauren? Or Dan? No Dan. Okay. Okay. Very good. So,
Sonia's on as well from San Francisco.
Oh, my apologies. My apologies, Sonia. Yep, I see. Sorry about that. Very good. All right. So, oh, and who's this?
Diana Urueña.
Ah, hi. You weren't on last week, but you're here this week, right?
Yes.
Great. Well, thank you. And you're in Colombia, correct?
Excuse me, I can't hear.
Oh, I'm sorry. Where are you calling from?
I calling from Colombia. Bogotá,
Yes.
Colombia.
Okay. Great. Well, welcome. Thank you very much for jumping on. And are you having any trouble getting on to the technology, onto the live meeting?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Let me know if you do. All right, everybody. Welcome. Session number 2. Here we go. Super excited to go through this conversation with all of you this week. I think you're going to find this is a nice, logical, easy build off of what we did last week, which is where we'll start for a few minutes. Thank you all very much for doing the homework. I got a homework from everybody on the call. Okay, which is awesome. Appreciate that very much. And what was great to see is, from the initial key takeaways, you guys are getting it. There's nothing hard about this conversation. It's very easy. That's a big, kind of contextual word that we like to use with all of market forces. None of these are rocket science. They're very easy distinctions. They're just not trivial. And most of the people can't see, for example, the difference between judgmental and performative language. So the homeworks this week were great in terms of if you looked at any of the responses about what people may have said this week, there was a particular word that came up a lot. A lot of you reported you might say things to other people like, well, I hope that, something changes on this, or we really need to do something about this report. It would be nice if you did something, and then you notice that nobody ever did anything. And if you're thinking that there's a bigger point to the conversation than that, there isn't. But what we're hoping is that starts to give you a little bit more tools. And a couple of you actually reported in your homeworks, like Sonia, I noticed in yours, you said that you realized that you had a conversation about some changes that you wanted to have happen, and then you realized that nobody was doing anything, so you really went back to people and, in my words, started making more specific requests so that people would actually do something. And I don't know if that was a function of this call or not. Do you remember the project that you were talking about, Sonia?
Yeah, that actually happened the week before the call.
Yeah, no. Okay,
but,
right.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean is I'm not trying to make it about the call, but at some point you realize it's like, uh-oh, stuff isn't happening, right?
Nothing's happening. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Hello. Okay. And it's like, oh, okay. So there you go. You started to shift over to the right. And I think I may have even mentioned to you guys last week, that happens a lot where people are writing emails, and now as they have a little bit more awareness, they go, oops, I'm not being very specific. about what I'm really asking anybody to do here. And so maybe nothing will happen. So maybe I need to tighten up my language, get a little bit more performative based. Does that make sense, Sonia? I mean, you had that experience, like you said, even before and I know you've seen market force before, but presumably it wasn't even market force that was influencing you there. It was just the realization that nothing was happening, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And now we have the map. And now, Sonia, imagine if the other people that you work with on that project had the map. Okay? And the more people that have this as a common distinction, what you find is less people get judgmental. Like, why is Sonia being so pushy? Okay? It's like we all just realize that if anything's going to happen, we got to get performance. Okay? And everybody's following me on that, right? That all makes sense, yeah? Nobody's having any problems with that? No? Yes? Yeah. Now, the other thing that was kind of interesting was we had a nice range, okay? Some of you were in the, 30% performative, 70% judgmental range, either yourself or your team. Other people reported being 85% performative and in the neighborhood of 15% judgmental. Now, look, that is awesome. I'm not going to say you shouldn't be. I will challenge those of you that had really high numbers, kind of like Sonia's report. Sometimes the more you keep this around, what you notice is you're actually not being as performative or at least as precise as you could be. You think you're asking people to do things, but you're actually doing it in a judgmental way. So just really challenge yourself to keep this distinction alive as we go forward in this course, and maybe double check your numbers as we go. Because those are very high numbers, which is great, but a lot of times it's that people are underestimating how judgmental they're actually being. Okay? So just a little bit of a challenge for you as we go forward. Okay? Anybody have any questions? Because I definitely took into account what everybody was saying, their primary performative felt like it was. We had about half the group say it was in the request area. We had another 4 or 5 people say promise. We had another 3 or 4 people say declaration. And we only had 2 people say assertion. And one of those persons was saying, well, maybe it's assertion, maybe it's promise. But you'll see today we're going to start mapping that over some other things. But it's a great way to just kind of look at what's even the primary performative that you bank on. Okay, but any other questions, you guys? That's it on the review. Any other questions that you have before we start pushing forward? Nope. Nope. All right. Here we go. Flip to session 2 in your workbook. This one's called balance. I'm going to put out there for you that for me, this is the best map we offer. So yes, that's a judgment. But I would give you evidence. I would make it an assertion that for me, in my business career, this map has made me the most money. So if you're multitasking, I would invite you to really tune in for an hour here and see what you think. And really see if this would be something you'd be willing to show to some other people. Well, first of all, use for yourself. But even show to some people around you that you work with. I don't oversell market force, or at least I pride myself on not doing that. But I will tell you, this map changed my life. My wife and I used this map to help us in our marriage. So this map for me is a real difference maker. So let's see what you guys think. So let me pick on somebody here. Tammy from Atlanta, if you don't mind.
I'm here.
When do you suppose the amount of judgmental speaking really picks up in an environment? And when do you suppose that people really lose their way and might need a map for getting back on track?
So, judgmental speaking may happen more kind of in a meeting context, not where different responsibilities are being delegated. People are just making statements about what they think should happen.
True. Absolutely. And then, and so let's just see what you think. Okay. I think a lot of meetings have that, but generally speaking, and you tell me what you think, okay? A lot of times meetings will start out with more judgmental language, and then at some point we'll get more performative, and things get delegated, and hopefully, like Sonia's saying, you know, we get a little bit more precise about our delegation, and boom, boom, okay, if we're doing well. What do you think about this, Tammy? We would put on the table that the more pressure that gets introduced into the environment, the more there is opportunity for people to start to use judgmental language that typically sounds like justification, shame, blame, guilt, excuses, reasons, problems, things like that.
I'd agree.
Yeah. Does that make some sense to you, though?
It does.
Yeah. Okay, so what we're going to do now is, you know, we've made this easy distinction between judgmental and performative language. Now we're going to go to the next step and say, okay, well, let's look at when is the time that judgmental language really picks up, and that's when people are feeling pressure. So let's give you a map for how to unwind the pressure. Now, if you stand back and think about sports or business or, you know, a good team in any environment, what we claim you're going to see are a couple of things, and there's probably more, but at least a couple of things that are keys to greatness. And number one, a good team in any environment has an ability to stay focused no matter what's happening in the environment. Everybody else is losing their marbles, feeling the pressure, dropping into judgmental statements. Great teams are able to stay focused, and their ability to stay focused gives them access to timing. And timing is the ability to take the next most powerful action regardless of the situation. Okay? Now, the reason that we call this map balance is that we claim in order to stay focused and apply timing, you have to be on balance. So this is not a work-life balance conversation. That's a different conversation, a worthy conversation, but that's not what we're talking about here. We are talking about the situation where you get out on the field and you are doing something, and boom, the email comes in and it makes you go, oh, shnikey, okay? Or the client calls, or the person in your office doesn't do a report, or boom, and you feel like you just got punched in the face, okay? That's what this map is designed for. Now, all of my life, I don't know about your life, I had teachers and I had coaches that threw around phrases like, hey, Travis, you have to be able to keep your balance. And what I always found about a phrase like that is that it wasn't very helpful. It was a cliche, and if you look up cliche in the dictionary, it means a trite phrase or expression, something that's overly used. Like I had a tennis coach that really said this a lot to me, and I noticed that I struggled because I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know when I lost my balance. What happened? How do I get back on track? I just didn't feel like it was very helpful. So, you know, I kind of joked that it's like telling somebody, here's a doorbell, but don't ring the doorbell. Or here's a one-way sign with 2 arrows on it. Okay, it's like, it's not very helpful. So instead, what we try to do is give you a map. And Renee, how do you use a map? What are the 2 things that you instinctively do with a map? What'd you say?
You would use it to guide you to your destination?
Absolutely. That's exactly right. And in order to be guided to your destination, what 2 things do you have to be able to do on the map? And it's so obvious we overlook it, but just go real obvious. Like, what do you have to know?
Well, you have to know north, south, east, west. You have to know directions.
True. So actually, maybe that's a 3rd thing. Fair enough. What other 2 things do you need to know? How about where you are, right?
Right.
And?
Where you're going.
Exactly. Okay, and that's what I mean is it's so obvious, you guys, but obvious is good. Like it helps clarify, especially when we're under a lot of pressure. So you have to know where you are, where you want to go. You go into the mall, you look at the big directory, and the first thing you look for is the big X that says you are here, and then you look for the store you want to go to, and oh, there it is on the 2nd floor, and then like you say, Renee, you chart a course and you climb the stairs and you go and get there. Well, what you're looking at on your workbook, in your workbook, you guys, is a map. And look at the 2nd thing down on the downward facing arrow. It's judgment. So there's your map over to our first conversation. The second symptom that you have lost your balance is that you are in a heavy judgmental conversation. And that starts to tell you where you are on the map, and then we're going to show you how to get back on track so that you can get to where you want to go, which is on the upside of the upward-facing arrow. So the outcomes of using this map are very simple. They're number one, you're going to be able to notice a little quicker when you've lost your balance. And let me be clear, everybody on this call is going to lose their balance today, if you didn't already. Matter of fact, there's opportunity to lose your balance 500 times a day, maybe 50 times on the weekend. Okay? So we want you to be able to see it sooner, and we're going to give you a nice mechanism for getting back on track quicker. Okay, those are the goals. I'm going to put it on the table early. You will notice that there are no goals that say you will have less breakdowns. And I want to be very clear with this group. There is no promise that you will have less breakdowns due to market force, because that is not possible. And it's one of the biggest fallacies that we have found doing business coaching is people live like good players and good teams have less breakdowns. It's the exact opposite. I can tell you with 100% certainty, the best teams have more breakdowns. They just have a capability to get through them quicker than, average or poor performing teams. So make no mistake, we're not saying you're going to have less breakdowns. As a matter of fact, we're giving you a little bit of a weird mindset here, which is we're actually telling you you're going to have more breakdowns. Think about that. So last thing before we get into the map then is I want to go really big picture and go really philosophical and show you a quote from one of the great American philosophers of all time, which I don't know if you'll know who he is in Colombia, but does everybody know who this great American philosopher is?
Mike Tyson.
Exactly. Listen, the guy's not a great American philosopher. He's not even a great American. Okay, I get it. But he did say something very interesting when he was the heavyweight champion of the world. What he said is, everyone has a great strategy until they get punched in the face. And if you think about it, that was Tyson's whole strategy. Run out in the middle of the ring and punch the guy in the face. And if he didn't go down in the first round, then Tyson would lose his balance and bite your ear off. Okay? But think about that. You probably walked in this morning with a whole strategy for your day, and about 5 minutes into your day, you got an email from that client you can't stand. And you felt like you got punched in the face. We're serious about that. I get that it's not quite as violent, but that's what we're talking about, is that guttural reaction of, oh, shoot, I have to deal with this. Okay? So, now, in your workbook, we're going to walk through for a few of the sentences here together to just try to make them make sense. And the first sentence says, all projects are started to earn more identity by accomplishing a particular future. And we do claim this is a statement of fact. So we are open to challenges, but we are making a pretty serious claim here that this is a statement of fact. What this means is every project that you take on in your life is driven by a commitment you have to increase your identity, including projects with your family. So say you travel a lot and you come home and you've lost a little identity with your husband and your kids, and so you say, hey, look, I'd really like for us to go on a picnic on Saturday. You're doing that, you're declaring that project out of a commitment to increase your identity with your husband and your children. And the only way you're going to do that is if you actually accomplish what you said you were going to accomplish in the time frame you said you were going to accomplish. So if you get up on Saturday morning and you go, you know what, I'm not going to go to the park with you guys today, I'm going to go to my office instead, you're not going to increase your identity. Does anybody take issue with what we're claiming as a statement of fact? Every project you take on at work, at home, is driven by a commitment you have to increase your identity, and the only way you do that is to accomplish what you said you were going to accomplish in the time frame you said you were going to accomplish.
Well, this is James. I might challenge that identity that it's bigger than just the individual. It might be a team identity.
Fair enough. Okay. So, yes, if you work on a team, extrapolate that out. The only reason your team is taking on any project is to increase your identity. So, James, point well taken. What I might put back at you is if you want less problems in your life, stop taking on more projects. Okay?
Yeah, I need you to talk to my boss.
Yeah. No. I absolve myself of all responsibility at this point. Okay? But yes, fair enough. Now, so James, your point is well taken. Could be a team identity, but whether it's an individual or a team, the only reason that you're taking on a project is to grow your identity. So we claim that's a statement of fact. Seems like we at least have general agreement at this point. You all are in consideration of that. The next sentence is where we start to work on your mindset. Oops. And this is what I was saying earlier. Inevitably, when you take on a project, a breakdown happens. So you've got this project, this declared project to, do a picnic on Saturday, and boom, you wake up on Saturday morning and it's raining. Or, Ella's got an ear infection, or somebody doesn't feel like going, or the dog is sick, or boom, life punches you in the face. Now, what's important about this, you guys, is that this is what life is. See, let me just ask you, and maybe James, since you just chimed in, let me just ask you this question. See, James, when I ask you, is a breakdown a good thing or a bad thing? What is your initial reaction?
My initial gut thinks it's bad, but
exactly.
as a manager, I know, whether it's conflict or whatever made the breakdown, often you can use that to improve the situation over the long term.
Absolutely. And that, sir, is why you are a more prosperous human being on the planet. Okay? Exactly. But what we even want to do is even challenge the notion that you have to change it to that it's a good thing. What we would actually replace it with is get you to be a little bit absent of judgment. I know this sounds a little weird at first, guys, but we actually contend that the more judgmental you are in your life, the more energy you will expend. The less judgmental you become, the more gracefully you move through projects. And it's a challenge, because as human beings, one of the things we do with our language is we make everything mean something. See, dogs bark, seagulls make noise, and human beings make meaning. But we're asking you to consider that all of the effort that goes into putting judgment around breakdowns sucks a lot of energy. And we're also asking you to consider what the rest of your life will look like. So you were not expecting this on a Tuesday morning in your market force course, but I'm actually going to show you what the rest of your life looks like. Ready? Here's the rest of your life. You have a breakdown, and then, like James was saying, because you're a productive and ambitious and prosperous person, boom, you design a solution. And then you have another breakdown and design another solution. And then, boom, breakdown, solution, breakdown, solution, breakdown, solution, breakdown, solution, breakdown, solution, breakdown, solution, and then you die.
Make it seem so positive.
Right. Yeah, I know. We call that a market force pep talk. Okay. No, but think about it. Your life is breakdown, solution, breakdown, solution, breakdown, solution, breakdown, solution, breakdown, solution, breakdown, solution. Oh, breakdown, breakdown, solution, breakdown, breakdown. That's all it is. And I meet a lot of people in, the work that I do that are living in a weird fantasy that someday all the breakdowns are going to stop and then I can get on with my life. I'm here to tell you guys that day never comes. So if we can get over it, we can get on with it with a little less drama and a little less wasted energy. Oh, what a relief. And if we get on with it, then we start turning our attention, James, to a little bit more about what you were talking about. Okay? See, in an effective community or an effective team, a breakdown is not a problem. And we would request that you write down this definition of a problem. This is, good food for thought for you later. See, a problem is a person's story about his or her inability to perform on a project. And Brenda, if somebody launches into their story about their inability to perform on a project, which type of language are they using?
You know, Brenda had to hop off. This is Sonia.
She had to hop off.
I'll speak on her behalf.
Fair enough.
Go with
What type of
judgmental.
language? Yeah. And if they're using a lot of judgmental language, what are they looking for? How about agreement? Well, don't you agree with me that the problem here is that the client didn't do X, Y, and Z, and that's why we're not getting this done? Sometimes they're looking for pity. Sometimes they're just looking for, camaraderie. Sometimes, but look, the point is, and James, you said it well. See, in an effective community, the breakdown is not a problem. It's not a chance to give us your, BS story about why something didn't happen, whose fault it is, and why, and this, and that, blah, blah, blah. It's not that. It's not. Stop. Time out. Whoa. Unnecessary. On an effective team, a breakdown becomes what? Just a stop and an opportunity for learning. And James, since you brought this up about teaming, James, what would you say the purpose of a team is? Like, why do we put up with the brain damage of trying to put together groups of human beings? Like, what's the purpose of a team in your mind?
Well, we have common goals. We
Yep.
hope they are aligned with the company's goals.
True. Okay, but the common goal, okay, and we're not arguing. This is good. Like, the common goal is the outcome, right? So, what is it at the core of the team? If we're going to achieve that goal, what is the skill that group of people has to learn how to do together?
Collaborate, adapt to change,
Yep.
pull together,
Yep. It's great.
use the same vocabulary.
Yeah. Okay. So these are great. Okay. What I do with answers like this, James, is I steal them, I make them my own, and I give you no credit. Okay. That's how I roll. Okay. Well, it's funny because even when I asked the question, I realized when I asked the question, I actually used the word in the question that I was looking for, and not to be right. But here's our perspective, James, and all of you guys. Tell me what you think. See, our claim is the purpose of a team is to learn how to learn together. Because if we learn how to learn together, we'll figure out how to collaborate better. We'll figure out how to adapt to change. We'll pull together. We'll use a common playbook. We'll figure out who's better at doing what. Oh, James, you're better at that than me. Why don't we have you do that and I'll do this? That's all a function of learning. Is that fair, James? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, you have different learning styles within the team, so that's
Absolutely.
what you're saying. You can selectively choose who's doing what when.
Exactly. But exactly. And the function of being able to do that is to be able to learn together. We have to learn how to learn together. And let me pick on Sean. Okay, Sean, in your experience, and there is no right answer to this. There's just your experience.
Okay.
Do you feel like you learn the most from the stuff you do really, really well, or maybe the stuff that didn't work so well? What has been your experience in your career?
I would say that you learn from the stuff you don't do very well.
I mean, isn't it interesting? 96.372% of the people I ask that to say the same thing. I would agree with you. I don't know how the rest of you feel. But isn't it interesting that all we've established so far is that most people live in a common sense that a breakdown is a bad thing. They have a judgment that breakdowns are bad. And so what does that send the people into? It tends to send people into protection mode. So you come into a meeting, you go, hey, anybody have a breakdown? Everybody goes, no, everything's good. Because if I put it on the table, that'll make me look bad because breakdowns are bad. And what does that mean is it means we're not learning as much together as we could. And yet, as you just said, Sean, what we all acknowledge is what we tend to learn the most from are the things that aren't working as well.
Yeah.
So what if we created a group of people and an environment where people understood that breakdowns are not bad and they're not good. They're inevitable. Please write this down for your thought process later. See, breakdowns are not bad or good. They are inevitable. The same breakdown. And I'll just use that. The same breakdown is that. Because, Sean, if we're having the same breakdown over and over, what does that tell us?
Means you haven't learned from your mistakes.
Your money. Exactly. And if the purpose of the team is to accelerate learning, and if we're on a team and our team has the same breakdown over and over again, I got news for you folks, you don't have a team.
Yeah.
So, if you can't get reports out to certain people, or if you're struggling to deal with certain people in the market, like types of clients, or if you have an employee that you're struggling with, and you're having the same breakdown over and over, listen, for a business coach like me, if you call me up and say, hey, Travis, I have a breakdown, I don't make any judgments. I go, great, let's work the breakdown, boom, boom. If you call me up week after week and we're having the same conversation about the same breakdown over and over, I'm going to fly out there and punch you in the face. Because that is a bad thing, because that means you're not learning. And either I suck as a coach or you suck as a player, but we ain't going to work together anymore because there's no learning. And here's the story that I tell to just hopefully make this even more memorable than the punch in the face thing that I keep doing, okay? See, if you tell someone a fact they learned, you tell them a truth they believe, you tell them a story they tend to remember. So let me just tell you this story and see if it's something that sticks with you, okay? So when my daughter was 0, essentially, my first daughter, so she's 8 now, so, 7, 8 years ago, whatever it was, I'm up one night feeding her a bottle, like I'm sure many of you have done with your own children, and I'm flipping through the channels, and I'm exhausted, and I somehow came onto the Discovery Channel, and for some reason I stopped there. You have no idea why these things happen, but as I watched the program, I was like, wow, what a great story. And here's what I saw on the Discovery Channel, and I have no idea why any of this is true, but I learned something that night, which is animals have an animal instinct that when big winter storms are coming, they react. And you see this all the time, like a big typhoon will hit, and what they find is many of the animals are actually stampeding towards high ground just before the storm hits, because they have an instinct that human beings, for some reason, either we don't listen to or we don't have. Well, in this case, what they were doing a study on the difference between how herds of cattle and herds of buffalo respond to the same winter storm. It's a very interesting profession. I don't know how you choose these things, but somebody was doing this. And what they found is that herds of cattle run downwind from big winter storms. And what tends to happen in a big winter storm is it picks up in ferocity, catches up to the herd of cattle, and most of the cattle die. Herds of buffalo have the opposite reaction, which is they actually stampede at the storm. And in the same winter storm, what they find is less buffalo die, because they get to the storm before it's picked up to its highest point, and they break through to the other side. Well, what we challenge individuals, what we challenge teams, team leaders is, which way do you run, which way does your team run? Are breakdowns catastrophic? Are they lots of drama, which means things have festered to the point where people are so balled up in their judgments that all of a sudden there's just massive breakdowns and pomp and circumstances and drama? Or do people just handle it? And I'm not asking for an answer to that, but think about that for yourself. How quickly do you turn into breakdowns? Or are you the type of person that, lets them fester? And there will be a direct correlation to both your satisfaction in life and your prosperity. Second paragraph. Now that we have worked on the mindset a little bit, let's show you the mechanism. And if you've tuned out or you're multitasking at all, please come back, because this is something that, for me, I was like, whoa. This is something that's an uncommon way of looking at life. Okay? What it says in your workbook is the cause or the source of all breakdowns is intention. If you have no intention, you will have no breakdowns. And if you have no breakdowns, you will have no intention. In Australia, they call this no worries, mate. The cause or the source of all breakdowns in your life is your intention. If you don't have an intention, you don't have any breakdowns. If you're not having any breakdowns, it's because you don't have any intention. How does that feel, you guys? That makes some sense, right? Like, intellectually, that makes sense, right? Yes, no? Does anybody feel like it doesn't make sense, which is fine? What's your reaction?
Can you give an example?
Yes. It's almost like you were a plant, because that's what I was going to do next. Now, who said that?
That was Sonia.
Sonia. Okay, great. So, Sonia, what I want you to do is I'm going to tell a story, and I want you to try to apply this claim that the source of all breakdowns is intention. Okay? And I honestly am not going to try to trip you up in the story. There are no tricks. I'm going to ask you a 2-question quiz at the end of the story. And I just want you to apply it, all of you guys. Okay? So I want you to envision this Saturday. I come back home from a trip. I go to San Francisco, actually, this afternoon. So I come back on Friday, and I live in the desert out here in Arizona. So it's a beautiful place to live, and nice sunsets and sunrises. So I wake up early, Sonia, in the morning. And according to this picture, it's really early. I obviously couldn't find a different picture, but I wake up at 20 to 5 on Saturday morning. And I think to myself, Sonia, what's that?
It's bright out.
Yeah, it is.
It rises early.
It's bright. Yeah, exactly, okay? So the picture notwithstanding, I wake up early and I think to myself, my intention is to have a nice breakfast. Okay? So then I think, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to go old school. I'm going to have a bowl of cereal and run outside and get the newspaper and read the newspaper. Pretty soon I got to change these slides because there won't be any newspapers left. So I hop out of bed and I go to the pantry and I pick out a cereal. Of course, I select the one with the most sugar. And I pour the cereal in the bowl and I grab a spoon and I run outside and I get the newspaper. I come back in and I put everything on the kitchen table and I head for the refrigerator. And I open the refrigerator, Sonia, and what's going to happen?
You're not going to have any milk.
Exactly. Now, don't get distracted by the cake. Okay, pretend like that's not there. And this is water. Okay, don't anybody get tripped up. That's a jug of water right there. So stay with me. Okay, so I open up the refrigerator, and boom, there's no milk. Now, what will be the first thing I say to myself, Sonia, when this happens?
Oh crap, I really wanted the
Yes.
cereal.
Yeah, exactly. Okay? In language, what we're asking you to start to pay attention to is it's a visceral response, and part of the visceral response occurs in language. Now, you may not be somebody that uses a 4-letter word like shnikey or, fudge or whatever, but you will start to notice that there's something in language that happens. And what we want you to pay attention to is this is the moment that you're being punched in the face, not literally, but figuratively. And every time you experience one of these Oceanike moments, it puts you at a crossroads on our map between losing your balance and wasting time or staying on track and going on the upward-facing arrow. So now let's examine the downward-facing arrow, Sonia, and then I'll give you the quiz. So watch how quickly this happens for me on this Saturday morning. The breakdown happens, and then the emotional upset starts. Can't the guy just have a nice Saturday? And then the judgment starts. Hey, Allison, what's going on around here? Why are the kids drinking so much milk? Why didn't you pick up milk, Allison? I don't understand. And then the recurrent action, which is to start a fight clearly really early on the morning on a Saturday, which is dangerous because my wife is not a morning person. And now Saturday's ruined before it ever got started. Now, I know it's a ridiculous non-work related example, you guys. We do that on purpose because the fundamentals of breakdowns are the exact same. I don't care if we're talking about no milk in the refrigerator or a lot of zeros. The fundamentals are the same. And if you get good at the fundamentals, you get good at working through breakdowns. So, Sonia, here's the quiz. And quite frankly, Sonia, who cares if you get a wrong answer? You probably won't, but I don't want you to have a clutch on this. Just go with your gut. We'll all learn something. Okay? Who cares? The first question is, what's the breakdown in my story?
The breakdown is not having milk.
Exactly. Very good. Okay? There's no drama. There's no nothing, right? Hey, Travis, stop in the action, right? Very good. Second question. What is the cause of the breakdown?
The fact that you were intending to have cereal, which requires milk.
You were so close.
Oh, no. Your intention was to have milk.
Oh, no, but it's great. I mean, in a way, like...
Oh, wait, your intention was to have a nice breakfast.
Yes!
All right.
Well done. Hey, well done. And now other people might still be sitting there like, oh my God, I'm so glad Sonia was the one that said this out loud, and I'm confused. What's the difference? But to your point, Sonia, about 9 times out of 10, when people give their responses, they fall into the bear trap, which is, well, it was your intention to have cereal. But like you just said, Sonia, my intention was not to have cereal. It was to have a nice breakfast. And why is that important?
Because there's other possibilities or opportunities for a nice breakfast.
Exactly. I mean, this is what I mean, you guys. This is not rocket science. It's easy, except when you're not doing it. Okay? So now to kind of mix metaphors a little bit, or whatever, mix similes or whatever these things are. If you came up to me, Sonia, and I was in the woods, and I was really pissed off because I couldn't get out of the woods, and you noticed that I was running in a circle, which probably isn't too far from the truth if you know me, but if that were happening, Sonia, what might you hand me? What kind of tool might you hand me?
A map, perhaps?
True. A map.
A compass?
You might also hand me a compass, right? Well, this conversation, you guys, becomes the compass for what to do when there are breakdowns. See, if Sonia were at my house on this Saturday morning and she was on my team and she started to see me lose my balance, which would be really weird, so let's not do that, Sonia. Okay, but assuming you were on my team and you saw me losing my balance, one of the first things you might do is slap me across the face and go, hey, jackass, what was your intention? And that would be like walking up to me in the middle of the forest when I'm running in a circle and going, hey, here's a compass. And this is what we want you guys to write down. We call this our rule of balance. And the rule of balance says, in the moment of the breakdown, don't focus on the breakdown. Focus on what you intend. And all of you are already doing this when you do it. What we're built the map for is when you're not doing it, you now have the map to remind you to do it. And in a very judgmental space, I will tell you that this is the difference between winners and losers in life. Losers focus on the breakdown every chance they get as a reason to not have the future they intend. Winners focus on what they intend and don't have reasons why they don't have the future they intend. And I've been doing this work long enough with Colliers and non-Colliers companies that you'll actually see breakdowns happen right in the middle of the course. Like sometimes the technology goes out. And so the live meeting just shuts down because the whole office has an IT breakdown. And, the phone still works, but the technology, the computer's not working. So I go, oh, this is great, you guys. What I want you to do is swivel in your chairs, look out the glass of the conference room, and look at the cubes. And immediately you will see the difference between the brokers that are, okay and make decent money and the people who are just killing it. Because the people who are making okay money, they immediately go, this place sucks, and the IT sucks, and if only they would, I could, but they won't, so I can't, and I got all these reasons. And the winners go, well, given my intention to be prosperous, the next most powerful thing for me to do is not sit here and complain, it's to get on my cell phone and go have lunch with my client. This making sense, you guys?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And just like you were saying, Sonia, in the example is, the moment you have clarity on what you intend, it automatically opens up the upward-facing arrow. And if you're an ambitious person at all, you're not as distracted by the downward-facing arrow anymore. You're just in a conversation for, well, given what we intend, what are the possibilities? And given those possibilities, what could we actually do, given real life with money and time, and then let's try something. And this is what I was saying earlier, what good people in the game of, what good players in this game realize is everybody's got breakdowns. The difference between prosperity and, break even is how well you handle it. And our contention is if you shift your mindset to only focusing on what you intend versus focus, like in the future, you guys, I actually want to color these maps, color code them, and we want to make this green and the upward facing arrow green, and this breakdown thing here red and the downward facing arrow red. Because if you focus on the breakdown, there is no way to not go on the downward facing arrow. If you focus on what you intend and you have any ambition at all, the only way you can focus is on the upward facing arrow. And in my little story, you guys, just for fun, I hope, for 10 seconds, if my intention is to have a nice breakfast, what are some of the possibilities of what I could do? Anybody?
He'd go out to breakfast.
Yes, what else?
Go for a jog.
Yeah, I could change my intention. You know what? My intention is to get a nice workout in. Very good. What else?
Have oatmeal.
Yeah, could have, what else? So I've only got 3 possibilities. Really? In a way, you guys are proving my point. See, this is the learning conversation. And this is one of the reasons that children learn so fast. They have no clutch. They have no concern about what they think other people will think about them. They have no judgmental conversation build-up in their brains. They just go, well, if that happened and what I intend is this, then I'll do this instead. And as we get to become adults, we lose that muscle, you guys, honestly. I mean, you want to build a real learning team, you have to get people who are willing to just throw stuff at the dry erase board. If you want to cut down on the learning in the environment, okay, which is dangerous, shut people down. Because, see, in this conversation, if it really is about milk, well, just get your ass in the car, Travis, and go get milk. It's not that big a deal. Or go across the street, or maybe pour something else on the cereal. Vodka, orange juice, Coke. I've heard it all over the years. Or, you know what, have something else to eat, as one of you said. Or maybe throw my kids on an airplane and, take them out to a nice breakfast down in France. It's a possibility. Well, wait a minute. I've been gone for a week, and my wife has to raise these 4, tyrants we call children. What if I drove over to Starbucks and picked up a nice scone and, some coffee and came home and served her breakfast in bed? That might even increase my identity around here. But the point is, and this is what we want you guys to write down, the definition of the possibility. Please write this down. Something that could happen, but probably won't. And the reason we need you to write that down is that there's a rule when you're having a conversation for possibilities, and that is that no judgmental speaking is allowed. And one of my clients actually came up with this idea years ago, and I've always shared it because I think it's a neat idea, and maybe you guys won't do it, I get that, but I just think by way of example, what they did is they went out and bought a Nerf ball. And any time there was a breakdown and the team got together, they got the Nerf ball out. And if they were throwing possibilities at the dry erase board and you were somebody that said, oh, we can't do that, that's a stupid idea, that'll cost too much money, we've already tried that, I don't like that idea. The moment you threw a judgment on the table, you got pegged in the face with the Nerf ball. And then you had to hold it until the next person did it. And what that started doing in the environment was minimizing the judgmental speaking and breakdowns so that they could just have conversations for possibilities. Then, once we've got a laundry list of possibilities, then we look at the opportunities. And opportunities are where we start factoring in real life. See, possibilities are not real life. Opportunities are how much money does it cost, how much time will it take, do we think it has a chance of working? And then we make a declaration and we go, here's what we're going to do. Not, we hope this works, not, it would be nice if somebody would do something. No, we get performative and we say, okay, boom, here's what we're going to do, who's promising to do what, and we coordinate. And some of it's going to work and some of it's not going to work. And as I signaled early on, the measurement of success with this map is two things. Number one, less drama. We get through the breakdowns quicker. Please write these down, by the way, because they're important for your recollection later and just your food for thought. If you install this map and it's really working for you, what you will notice is your team and you are getting through breakdowns quicker. And number two, you're having new and different breakdowns. And Sean, remind me, if we're not having new and different breakdowns, what does that mean?
And we're not learning from our mistakes.
And if we ain't learning, what does that mean?
We're not getting better.
And if we're on a team, we're not even a team. And that, you guys, is why on the map we use very specific words at the bottom of the downward-facing arrow and at the top of the upward-facing arrow. Okay? See, a gang is a group of individuals fighting for power at each other's expense. Well, I'm right, Sean, and you're wrong. And the reason this is happening is because you're causing a problem. It's not my fault, and if only you would, then I could. And that's what happens in most organizational performance is gang behavior. And obviously the worst manifestation of that is a street gang. And Sean, if you and I were in the same street gang and I stab you, you'll actually give me an extra tattoo and promote me. Okay? And think about what organizational performance is. Well, if I stab Sean in the back, I mean, we don't stab people literally, but our judgments stab people figuratively. And we're doing that out of a commitment to increasing our power and identity at somebody else's expense. And that's most organizational performance. And I'll be honest with you guys, I don't give a shit to play that way. And I don't want to be around people who play that way. Where I intend to spend my life is with people who actually want to build a team. And a team is an incredibly rare commodity. A team, by definition, is a group of ambitious people who are potentially disagreeable. Because we contend that agreement is overrated. As we told you last week, and many of you were saying this week, you had meetings where everybody agreed on what we should do, and then nobody did shit. So we look for people who are kind of like, look, I think we should do this, I think we should do that. Okay, now that we've got different opinions out there, let's make a declaration and align on what we're going to do. So a team is a group of ambitious people who are disagreeable, but aligned on producing an intention. And if any of you have played a team sport, you've had the experience once in your life of being on a team. You were with a group of people that maybe disagreed about a play that was being called or something that we were going to do, but once the coach or once the team decided this is what we're going to do, everybody does their job, and you do it with 100%. You don't half-step it and hope that somebody else is wrong. That's gang behavior. And this is why we're saying this is a rare commodity to produce in business performance is an actual team. Questions, comments at this point, you guys?
Yeah, this is Dan, and
yeah, Dan.
This is Dan Charles. I really like what you just said because you want to hire people and recruit people for your senior team that have strong opinions. And I find that what I'm trying to learn as a young executive is how to manage those egos, because everyone has egos and that's okay, but how you mold those egos to a larger purpose and redirect them. And that's a real challenge, to be the orchestra director for a symphony of egos. But when it works, it's really beautiful, but it's really hard too.
It is. As a matter of fact, you guys may like this. I mean, Dan, thank you. Okay. What I like is this little moniker, see what you guys think. See, teams are difficult to create. And I think what you were just saying, Dan, is it goes right to that, right? Like, it's difficult. If you actually create a team, what you'll notice is it's easy to maintain.
Yeah.
And then the real benefit is it's impossible to duplicate.
Huh.
Okay, like if any competitive environment that you're in, okay, and all of us are in very competitive environments. I mean, if you get a group of people that can do exactly what you just said, Dan, look at the difference in what you get in the environment. You get more ambition, like, wow, I've got a say, I'm at the table. You get more excitement. You get more vitality in the group. The moment you start going, look, you know, I'm going to stab that guy in the back, you start getting resentment in the environment.
Yeah.
Less vitality in the group, right? Yeah, I mean, so, and I loved how you put it. It's like that's the challenge that all of us are faced with in leadership positions is how do you create this? And what we hope with a tool like this is, and this is why I can't remember who I asked, but when I was showing you guys in the initial introduction last week, and I just showed you an upward and a downward facing arrow, and I asked all of you, which one would you rather be on, an upward or a downward facing arrow? What we found with this particular map, Dan, is you can actually put it up on the wall. You don't even have to train anybody. You just put it up on the wall and leave it there. And people will start walking by and go, wow, what is this? And then they'll look at it and they'll go, wow, boy, I sure don't want to be on that downward. Boy, that gang word, that sounds like a negative thing. I don't want to be there. And it will actually start to change behavior just off the visual.
Yeah.
And then Dan, if you were to show it to other people and just, you know, bring it out the next time there is a breakdown between and amongst your team, and just go, whoa, guys, do you notice how we're playing a little bit more down here? And maybe we could just level set on what we're really trying to do and then just talk possibilities and make a play call. What you'll notice is it starts taking all the drama out.
Yeah.
Okay? Perfect. And, you know, guys, look, we really did do all of that from those first three sentences. See, the source of the cause of all the breakdowns in your life is your intention. If you have no intention, you will have no breakdowns. So if you focus here, then the next sentence starts to happen. This shifts the accountability of breakdowns away from the victim of circumstance mentality. Oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening to us. This is so unfair. And someday when this breakdown goes away, I'll get on with what I intend. And focuses it back on the individual and the committed community. Well, let's see. We intend to be the best. We intend for this to happen. And we're faced now with this stop in the action. Let's learn, figure out a possibility, and go. And I'll say one more time, you guys, just to really drive home the point and make you all feel really bad here. Kids don't need this map. Only adults need this map. So I live in Arizona. You guys know, Dan's out here in Arizona too. And it's, look, it's, there's a lot of prickly things out here. Well, one day, my wife and kids, we went over to a friend's house, and the kids all slipped out back, and they were, kicking the soccer ball around, and I, was drinking a cup of lemonade, and I happened to just be watching them for a minute, and boom, of course, one of the kids kicks the ball right into a cactus. Ball goes flat. And I kind of watched myself inside my head just go on the downward facing arrow. Oh, man, it's so frustrating. Why were they playing soccer around the cactus? That was kind of stupid. Maybe I'll go outside and tell them that was kind of stupid. Okay. Now, the good news is I didn't take any action on this, but I kind of watched myself go that direction. And then I kind of had this realization as I watched what happened next. See, the kids are so in touch with their intention that there is no time spent on the downward-facing arrow. And can anybody tell me what their intention was?
It's to play, have fun.
Exactly. Their intention was to have fun. And they all know it. There's no pomp, circumstance, and drama about, hey, Cindy, you kicked the ball into the cactus. It's like, no. One of the kids just immediately went into a possibility and opportunity, ran over, grabbed the soccer ball, took it off the cactus, put the flat ball on top of the dog, and they all started chasing the dog. Because kids intuitively know our intention. Or they know their intention. And as adults, we lose sight. And if you will practice with this, what you will first start to notice is that you're getting more clarity around what your intention is. Every time there's a breakdown, it's like, boom, what's my intention? Let me start there before I worry about the breakdown itself. And then you start passing this along, like Dan and James have alluded to in this meeting, okay, to your team. And what you start noticing is people are tightening up. Now, with all of that said, we get to the last little part of the conversation today, which is a real acknowledgement, you guys, Nobody on this call is a perfect person. Everybody on this call is going to lose their balance. Can we all just get real for a minute? We're not trying to create robots. But what we are saying in that next sentence there, you will notice, is the essence of balance is knowing when you've lost it. Really starting to understand and feel it in your biology when you're off kilter. And if you think for 1 minute that other people don't know it, you're crazy. You're absolutely nuts. Everybody knows it. It's totally transparent. You wear it on your sleeve, you're only fooling yourself. And in sports, just to drive home the point and make it even more visible, the last person typically to know that they've lost their balance is the person who has lost their balance. And typically it's the guy who's arguing with the referee, getting another penalty, and the rest of the team is going, whoa, whoa, man, come on, stop. You're killing us. We've got this intention to win the game, and the more penalties you draw, the worse it gets for us. And that's why they have a bench in sports. Quite honestly, it's why they offer coaching in sports. Because many times you're no good to the team, and we got to get you off the field. And in many sports, they, have a penalty box, because now you've gotten so out of balance, we got to stick you over here. And then, of course, all sports have the cold shower. And a good example, a little bit dated now, but I still think even if you don't know the example, you may have heard about it. But in the World Cup in 2006, one of the best players for the French soccer team was this guy named Zidane. And partway through the game, this guy was trash-talking him and kept saying these horrible things about his wife and his mother or something like that. And Zidane finally lost his balance and headbutted the guy. And he got a red card and got thrown out of the game. And after the game, he had this great story about how the other guy was a real jerk. But I'm telling you right now, the other guys have got their names on the World Cup. And 8 years later, that's all anybody remembers. So we really do like to drive home this point, that you have a choice every time you experience a potential to lose your balance. You'll either have the future you intend, or you'll have your great story why you don't. And you can't have both. Make your choice. Okay? Final key takeaway. Could somebody read that last paragraph? Actually, I'll just pick on somebody. Of course, I will call on somebody who's not here. But Tamara, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Good. Can you read the rest of that paragraph after where it says the essence of balance is knowing when you've lost?
Without the ability to distinguish the cause of a break in action, people automatically lose their balance. They begin taking recurrent ineffective actions that address the symptoms of a breakdown, their feelings. But in a game of market force, the market does not care about emotions. It only cares about its own satisfaction.
Great. So, final question to try to drive home the point of that last part of the paragraph that I get. It sounds a little crass and a little bit, tough. But guys, look, the game of business is a little bit rough and tumble. And if I were to get on one of these calls and go, look, guys, my daughter was up all night last night with croup, and my son's got this rash, and so, I'm feeling a little off balance today, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to deliver a good course. I mean, look, I feel like you guys like me, I hope. But at some level, you're like, Dad, Travis, I'm here to get something for me. Come on, man, I don't really give a care about your story. And that leads to the final question, you guys. And I'll take anybody on this. Won't even pick on anybody. What do all of us, including me on this call, get paid for? Any takers?
Work and create success.
Yes, work and create success. Very good. Now, I'm going to put it in time a little bit. Okay? Client's got something that they're trying to get accomplished. You come to mind, and then what you said, and I think that was Tamara, okay, then you execute. Okay? And you create success and produce results. But if the execution and the creating success part is a little bit further down the road, what happens in between the client having a desired outcome and you coming to mind? What happens right there? Anybody? Can anybody see it?
Well, it's the intention of the intention is set.
Yes, the intention is set by the client, and maybe you even have a conversation with them. You get clarity and do a good job kind of in the discovery phase, and you get clarity of intention. Or let's even not even put you in the equation yet, Tamara, okay? The client wakes up one morning and they go, my intention is to, sell a building, buy a building, get a building property managed, get some marketing done, figure out where to send my child to school. Client's got an intention, and then what happens?
They have to communicate that intention.
True, and then what happens?
Not sure. Or prior to execution, I'm not sure in between.
Very good. Look, and that's a fair response. Okay, and I just want you to consider now, what happens is the client goes, uh-oh, I got a breakdown. I can't sell this building by myself. I can't do this marketing package myself. You know what? I don't really know where to send my child through school. I got to go and interview some different schools and figure out whatever it is, whatever you do for a living. If you really stop and think about it, you guys, what all of us get paid for is to be a solution to other people's breakdowns. And the bigger the breakdown that you offer to be a solution to, the more zeros they'll put at the end of the number on the paycheck. I mean, if you're offering to be a solution to something that, isn't a big breakdown for people, nobody's going to pay you much money. If you're offering to be a solution to a big breakdown for people, they're going to pay you a lot of money. But even before we worry about the money side, think about this. And look, I know I can get on my soapbox. So forgive me, but I'm going to get on my soapbox for a minute, and I'm really going to challenge all of you because I really like this. Honestly, you guys really like this group. So I'm going to challenge you a little bit. If you and your team can't handle your own breakdown, if every time there's a breakdown for you and your team, there's a lot of drama and wasted time and energy, what makes you think for 1 second that you and your team are ever going to get good at handling other people's breakdowns? So go out, embrace the breakdown. Get your backyard in order. Get people trained up, like Dan was saying. Get people engaged in this conversation. Get people's mindset square. That to be more prosperous, we've got to get good at handling breakdowns. Do it. And what you'll notice is that you get your backyard in order, and all of the energy shifts away from internal problems and breakdowns and exhausting and ridiculous political BS stuff that is just such a waste of time, and all the energy gets focused on the clients. And in that moment, it's almost impossible to not be more prosperous. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And I'll tell you, it's really fun. I mean, in the lighting company that I owned, you guys, we trained this in. Well, first we learned it ourselves. I'm not saying, like, I wasn't broken. Okay, but, I mean, Dan, actually, I feel like I really relate. I was a young executive. I owned my own company. And we had kind of hit the jackpot. And we got awarded a 300-facility contract around the country, cost-plus basis with Beverly Enterprises to do 300 lighting retrofits. My partner was an absolute, just amazing sales guy, just genius. And, we hit the jackpot. We win the lottery. And about 3 months in, I started looking around and running numbers, and I was like, holy cow, Randy, we're going to go bankrupt. And he and I were just exhausted. Like, we didn't know what to do. And then we got a hold of this material. And look, guys, I get it. Okay, I'm biased, but we got a hold of this material. And for us, it was like, holy cow. It felt like we were throwing a floaty in the middle of the ocean, I started training our project managers, and something magical happened. Number one, we needed less people. See, what we were doing is we were hiring more and more people, and we were throwing people at it, and people are not the solution. Upgraded people are the solution. But more people with more drama and judgmental language and can't keep their balance, that will just make matters worse. So we ended up needing less people. And then what we had was this environment where it was just like you would listen to people on the phone and they were just so good, like, okay, well, we got a breakdown there. Okay, well, let's see. What else could we do? Hey, Jim, do you have any extra material at your project that you could ship out to Wisconsin for us? Okay, great. No, you don't. Okay, well, Jim, well, let's see. What other rooms could we get into? And it was like something different happened. And we got so addicted to that way of playing that we started showing this to our clients. Well, actually, first we started showing it to our subcontractors. So I would fly out to pre-construction meetings, and we would actually train our subcontractors, and we would acknowledge, look, there's going to be breakdowns on this project. We're going to screw up. You're going to screw up. Why don't we just have a way to work through the screw-ups so that we all make a little money on this project? You up for that? Great. And if they were up for it in their actions, we would use them whenever we could. If they weren't, we lived through that project or fired them if we could. If we had to live through the project, we never called them back. So we started getting some real kind of core contractors. We used it all the time. And then we started going to the client. And what we would say to the client is, look, the guy who comes in next, after me might tell you that there won't be any breakdowns on his project. We're not going to tell you that. We're going to tell you that there will be breakdowns on this project. It's a 6-month hospital. We got millions of light bulbs. We're going to make mistakes when we audit the building. We're going to try our best not to, but inevitably there will be a mistake. Our contractors are going to make mistakes. You're going to have accidents that happen at the hospital where we can't get into certain rooms when we've all agreed that, that's the schedule. There are going to be problems. So what we can promise you, Mr. Client, is we are world class at handling breakdowns. And we've trained it in. And here's our methodology. And we would love for you to participate with us in this project and see if you don't have a great experience. And for us, you guys, that's why I said at the beginning, the reason that I've done well in my career, I boil it down to the real-time installation and application of this map. And look, the other tools are great, and I stand by them, and I will tell you that they make a difference. But this one, for me, in my world, made all the difference. And I hope you will walk away and try it. And if you try it and it doesn't work for you, you let me know. But I have not had anybody in my career try this map, come back to me, and say, oh, that didn't work. It's a game changer. And it's subtle, and it's simple, but some of the best things in life are. Okay, so I hope you'll take it out. You'll add it to your arsenal now. You're managing between the judgmental and performative language. Now you've got this distinction that next to love, balance is the most important thing. Oops. Okay, so now you're encouraged to kind of stay on track. I mean, here was a guy in John Wooden who won a lot of national titles, and he is a pretty smart guy. We can all learn something. And you'll get out there now. I will send you the recording. I will send you the practice assignment. You'll be as happy as this gentleman to do the practice assignment. And you'll get that over to me again 24 hours in advance of our next meeting, and we will continue to build out the Market Force system. Thank you all very much for the engagement today, and I will talk to you next week.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Have a good week. Bye now.
You too. Bye-bye.